Hey guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be reviewing Sister, Maiden, Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. Now I got this book in one of my Abominable Book Club boxes, or my most recent one, and in that box it was the one that sounded the more appealing, the more intriguing. And before I get started, let's just have a look at the cover. Yes, I know the title was over the cover or the picture, but we'll do our best. But the cover is really detailed as well. It's got like a machete there and blood dripping down. It's got a cross. It's got some squid legs there. What's that? It's got some, I think that's a rose. It's got a brain. It's got some wings. It's got some of these bead things here. So it's got a lot of things going for it. I read this really quickly. I think I read this in about 5 days. So let me just read you the little blurb at the back. Don't worry guys, I won't give anything away. So this is what it says. A virus tears across the globe, transforming its victims in nightmarish ways. As the world collapses, dark forces drive a small group of women together. So in a way that is true, but in a way is a complete and utter lie. But I'll go through that in a minute. So when I was reading this, I was thinking, right, how am I going to do a video on this? I was so convinced that, because I was a bit frustrated with this book, I've got to be honest guys. I was thinking, should I just like scream into a pillow and just stare into the abyss when I'm recording this video? Because I'm like, what the hell am I reading right now? Would it even be classified as a horror book? But as I was thinking about it, it isn't that bad, it isn't great. And even now, I find it hard to kind of classify this book or even describe it, but I'll do my best. But this is a horror book. I was thinking, is this light horror that is trying to be dark and edgy by throwing all these unusual or sexual or creepy or gross out scenes to shock you? But despite that, this was really easy to read. So before I get started on telling you what this story is all about, this is going to be a spoiler-free video, and this is just going to be my own thoughts and feelings regarding this book. So this is set in our own world. It's not a parallel world, it's not a made-up world. This is set on Earth, and there's a virus going around. Now this virus, I'm not sure if it has a name. I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure the virus is called PVG, but I could be wrong about that. But there's this virus that goes around that when you come into contact with someone who has this virus, it can potentially give you this disease that can make you crave human brains. These people cannot go outside, they cannot socialize with anybody, they cannot come into contact with anyone, they cannot touch anyone. Any of their sweat or spit or blood or bodily fluids cannot come into contact with anybody else. If it does, then they will pass the virus on. It's very contagious. And people are very frightened of this virus as well. But these people can still have jobs, they can still have lives, but they have to obey by a strict isolation rule. They cannot interact with anybody else. But as I said, they can go into jobs as long as there's no one else around. It does mention the coronavirus as well. It does mention it in the past tense, like the coronavirus years. And this is one of the books that was inspired by the coronavirus, as there are lots of things in this book like isolation and the fear of transmitting the virus to other people. So this book focuses on 3 characters. The first character is called Erin. Now Erin is an everyday woman who has a loving husband, but she has gotten the virus, and this has resulted in her craving the taste of human brains. When she devours brains, well, whenever someone devours brains in this book, they automatically receive the memories and the information that is stored within that brain, such as if you were to eat a brain of a doctor, then you would gain all of their knowledge in the medical field, and plus all their memories and life experiences that they've had up until that point in their life. There is no explanation about why or how this actually happens when they eat this person's brain and how they absorb these memories. It's just something that happens within the book, and just something that the virus can enable these people to actually do. So I thought that was kind of weird. I really did. And plus there's different types of the virus as well. I think the virus has different effects on people, and they've classified these effects as types. I thought that was kind of strange, rather than having just one outcome to having the virus, which probably been much more simpler. I mean, I suppose if the book was a bit bigger, then the author could have explored that. It was just unnecessary for the length of the book, which is about 300 pages. So because Erin has got this virus, she cannot come into contact with her husband in any way, apart from video calls. And because of their situation, they've agreed to have an open relationship. But Erin comes across a woman that she finds sexually attracted to, and there are loads of sexual scenes with the women characters in this book. They have sexual intercourse with each other. There is always talk about their bodies and breasts and nipples, and it is very sexual and it is very steamy, both in a sexual way and also when they are cutting each other and eating brains and eating parts of their body. That gives them a sexual thrill as well. So this book is very sexual and very risky. Another character that we follow is called Savannah. Now Savannah is a kind of a mistress, or a BDSM mistress or whatever. I can't remember much about her character. I know that she's very dominating. And then another character that we follow is called Marivar. Not sure if I'm saying it right. It's there. Not sure if I'm probably pronouncing it right. Ooh, focus. She is a timid character. She tries to do the right thing, but as the story progresses, we find out that victims of this virus are having these massive lumps on their back, and they are sprouting these wings, these bat-like wings. And it's kind of weird that there's like these feathered wings here when they're clearly mentioned in the book as being bat-like. But the victims of this virus are transforming into monsters, and they are kind of ascending to a higher plane of existence. They believe in these creatures or these entities called the old gods, which have kind of been looking at the earth and humanity kind of like a human does to a fish in a fishbowl. They have been observing us and like documenting us, and I think that they want to help, but it's kind of a new evolution, a new step in the evolution of humanity, with humans turning into these creatures. And these creatures aren't just mindless monsters. They do have an intelligence, and they do speak in broken English, and in a way they still do look like their human counterparts, and in a way they still do have the memories of their human counterparts as well. So that is basically the story of Sister Maiden Monster. Now at the back of the book it says that these three characters come together. Yes and no. Throughout the book is split up into sections, these three sections that focus around these individual characters. Now when this happens, you would think that they would have a kind of their name above the corresponding section, just so you know, okay, cool, right, I'm about to read a section from this character. But it doesn't do that. So when you're reading that section, you're like, hang on, that doesn't sound like this character. We must be reading about someone else. So it kind of takes you out of the story, and you have to kind of like think to yourself, oh, okay, we're about to read someone else's section, and you have to get used to it, you know, if that made any sense. So I do not know why, but it would have been best if Lucy put the name of the character for that corresponding section on the chapter at the, you know, on chapter 6, for example. It should have been Erin, or, for example, you know, just so you know, right, to go into this chapter, I'm going to be reading about this character. Now, this book is written in a very, very easy to read way. I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not, but I read this whole thing in pretty much 5 days. So the writing style is very easy to read. Yes, it can get very scientific and technical in places about explaining the virus, and yes, it does mention about where tentacles come from into the story. But apart from them technical sections and them scientific jargon sections, this does read in a really good way. The characters are okay. I didn't really connect with any of them. I liked them, but I didn't really connect with them. And it's not because they are female. Or maybe it is, or maybe it isn't, I'm not sure. But they were just okay characters. Now, when it says they come together at the end, or they come together in the story, yes, they do come together. They do encounter one another, but it's not like a girl power group to kick the virus's arse and, you know, banding together, and women power and all that stuff. They come into contact with each other throughout different stages of having this virus, and I wouldn't say they are friends as such. They are maybe attracted to each other. There are sections in the book where they mention about how a character notices how big and nice another woman's breasts are, and having kind of sexual thoughts for that individual at the back of their mind. And despite my strong feelings about this and confusion about this story as a whole and about what I think about it, I did enjoy it. It wasn't incredible. It's nothing that I'm going to ever read again. But it was a interesting story, and I suppose I'm glad that I read it. It's not something that I was expecting to be what I classify as light horror, with some shocking elements, which is what I'm going to describe it as. I would have liked it if it was more focused and it really went for the violence and the gore in it. The story and the characters were okay. They were kind of taking care of themselves, but I would have liked a bit more blood and gore and, you know, violence and all that stuff. So would I recommend this to a horror fan? Yeah, I suppose so. It's, again, it's not terrible. It's not like Cassandra Clare's Nothing But Blackened Teeth. This is worth a read, guys. Just go into it with average expectations and you will enjoy this. But for me, I'm not going to read this ever again. It was fine for what it was. I'm pleased that I read it. I had a lot of fun reading it, but I'm going to let it go. With that said, am I ever going to read anything by this author ever again? Because this kind of left on a sort of a cliffhanger to a possible sequel. Now, am I going to read the sequel? If it comes in one of my Bundle Book Club boxes, yeah, sure, why not? As well as anything else by this author that happens to come into my Bundle Book Club box. Yes, I wouldn't mind reading something from this author if it came into my life as a free book or something that was in my subscription box. But Lucy A. Snyder, I wouldn't really go out and actively go out and buy one of her books. Not saying that she's a bad author. It's just that, yeah, she didn't really scratch that itch that I had as a horror fan. I hope I'm expressing myself right, guys. This wasn't a terrible read. It just didn't meet my expectations. But maybe it will be your cup of tea more than mine. I know that there are a lot of people that were asking about my opinion on this book when I commented saying, oh, I'm reading Sister Maiden Monster, and they're like, okay, you know, what's it like? Are you liking it? Are you enjoying it? I've heard about that book. What do you think about it? are you doing a video on it? Which, if you're watching this, clearly am. Hi. But I suppose this book is more for people that are more interested in reading the lighter side of horror. The horror which isn't all scary and creepy, but does have some gross out and disturbing elements throughout it. So what am I going to rate this book? I was going to give it a 2.5 stars, but I think I will give it a 3 stars, purely because I had a lot of fun going on this journey. So guys, that has been my review for this book. Let me know, have you read it? What did you think about it? Has my video kind of inspired you to pick it up? Does this sound like your type of thing? And with all that out the way, I'll see you on my next video.